So it's been a while since we've talked. At this point, like the last time we chatted was back in September. I think it was like before the adventure mode roadmap had come out, and now we have like a release date window. And I know that you've been busy, and Tarn keeps referring to you as working on UI related things. But before we kind of dive into, you know, more current stuff, I just kind of want to know. So you've been at Bay 12 or working with Bay 12, I guess, externally through KitFox now for a whole year. How's that process been since like joining the team?
I mean, I really actually don't know what, like, it's been good. The process is still getting settled a little because the game is, I mean, not until, this is an opinion of mine, but it's sort of how, like, how it feels anyway. The game isn't really feature complete until adventure mode's in. At first I was like, you know, bouncing back and forth and doing all sorts of big conversion things, and a couple of those have ended up in the game, but, then I started like three more, and not all of those have to wait on adventure mode now. So it's been doing things that affect only dwarf mode that's basically so what I'm saying is it's not disorganized, but it's not terribly organized either. When there's only two people, it's a lot less effort to like not get in each other's way. Then like you don't need management for that much, at least.
Yeah, especially when everybody's in the same space, right?
Yeah.
So is there anything like over the last year that you are particularly proud of that's made its way into the game or that you're currently working on?
I mean, the thing that I'm proud of is I added multi-threading to the game, and the actual like performance improvement that just happened to come alongside it is like significantly bigger by any metric.
Yeah, it's really interesting from my perspective. Like, because Dwarf Fortress has always had its critics, right? Like, I completely agree with you. The game is not feature complete until adventure mode is in, and it's really interesting seeing things like, oh, like, you know, now that they're millionaires, the development has slowed down, which is a very odd bit of criticism I've seen. It's like, I think you need to recolor your glasses because they're kind of rosy looking.
All around?
It's been really interesting, like, having you working on the game because, you know, I think like I'm not gonna like discount Tarn's work. I mean, having gone back and played a lot of old versions of the game recently, like, you know, I've played like, I don't know, 20 hours of two-dimensional Dwarf Fortress from like 2007 in the past couple months. I've played a bunch of hours of the various versions in the 30s as well as in 44, and like watching the frame rate just kind of increase in every single version is kind of dramatic. Like the speed that the game ran at back in 2007 versus like 2012 versus like again in 2018 is like massive. But
a lot of people might just assume the 2D game being simpler and like less map, it probably runs faster. No, sorry.
It was practically an idle game. Like, you could get up and leave for 30 minutes and nothing really would have happened. It's like it takes the amount of time to get through a season as you can get through like a year now. With significantly more going on in the game, right? But like the amount of performance increases in the last year have been kind of incredible. So that's the most noteworthy thing from my perspective as well, I would suppose. But let's just get into the topics at hand then. So what have you been working on recently since we last spoke?
I've been like replacing a lot of the UIs with UIs that generally work pretty similar, but they're easier to like modify when that needs to be done, because the way it's organized right now, it's just difficult to keep track. If you want to add a button, you need to add it in like 3 or 4 different places.
So a lot of under the hood changes of like the structure of how it's built then, yeah?
Yeah, but I'm taking advantage of the situation to add features as I go. So like, so far the stuff that's definitely like that I've sent in is filtering a lot of the unit lists. Like you can type like some words and you can filter by name, and like the thing you type in, it filters by name or profession or what job they're currently doing, depending on if that's available in the screen. And let's see, you can do like multi sorting. You hold shift and click and it adds another sort thing on top of the current one. I'm still not sure what the best way to like user experience that is, but it's not too hard to like flip around how that works click wise. So it's not that so as long as it's in there, it's fine. So you can like find out who your saddest miner is or whatever, and you know, that sort of thing, like really quickly.
From my perspective, the best way to figure that out would just be to like make a thread on Reddit and be like, "What do you want?"
Yeah,
it might not be a bad idea, but
and that particular change has gone to the main unit screen. all the room assignments, burrow assignments, location assignments, squad assignments. So that's all got all that going on. I also added sorting to the continue game list to the saves list because that was just starting to I had to like zip up all the saves I had and start over because there were too many and I couldn't find any anymore.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I have a folder within my saves folder called old saves don't touch, which I just move them in there and then ignore it.
Oh, and also the justice screen I forgot about that, has searching now too.
So the way I was going to like parse this subject, because like I think it's in Future of the Fortress now, as well as in a few various updates. Tarn has mentioned that you've been working on the UI. Like I think the way he's been referring to it is like I've been in menu land for adventure mode and Putnam's been in menu land for Fortress mode. And my question is, DFHack has added a lot of like sorting and filters. Are you looking to that as inspiration, or is that something that's kind of irrelevant to what you are working on?
I've sort of looked at it as inspiration, but ended up like for the justice screen, they have filtering, but it seemed a bit cheaty to me. Like I looked into how it actually works. I looked at the code, and it was a bit too like it's explicitly checking for like the individuals that happen to be undead or whatever. And
you mean like the risky visitors?
Yeah,
thing?
that seemed a bit cheaty.
I agree with that.
But I did build these UIs to be reasonably easy for DFHack itself to just sort of slap whatever they want on top of it. Like it uses a whole built-in like iteration thing, and there's like the unit lists in particular have a list of filters, and like so if DFHack wants to add a filter, they just add a function to that list of filters and it'll take out everything they wanted to take out and things like that. So I'm not looking to DFHack for inspiration necessarily, though I kind of am, but I am looking to it as like just trying to make it easier to implement stuff on top of what's there.
When it comes to the DFHack filtering, like it's the thing that's like made me actually use DFHack with features enabled, because like I've had DFHack installed on Steam since it's been available on Steam. But I've, up until the filters were added, I would just disable overlay and only use it if like something was obviously broken to try and fix it. Once they added the filters in, and specifically actually the improvements to flood filling and just burrow designation was the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to use both of these because they have automatically expanding burrows and also the flood filling and multi-level zoning burrows, which I think make the game 1,000 times more playable. I'm still in like this weird place where I don't understand why people insist that civilian alerts are necessary. I think that between filtering in Burrows and then flood filling in Burrows is just plenty. Like I can just search by child, done, add everybody to that burrow and just have a kid's burrow for like 5 different rooms, and then the kids are sorted. But is there going to be any vanilla improvements to the Burrows system? Because that might quell the constant crying for civilian alerts.
Gosh, I hope so. But I mean, obviously that's partially, at least, like partially under my control. I have a legitimate attention problem with Burrows. I have never used them, and thus I forget about the problems rather quickly. Like a lot of the stuff I happen to like fall into is because I not just play the game but also test the game test saves for crashing it regularly, and if something annoys me, that tends to stick in my head more, and I've never used Burrows in any respect, so it like that I just tend to forget about it, which is bad. The multi-Z designation thing, that's like actually really bad. Everything else in the game works.
Yeah, I think that's really the two things that Burrows need in the vanilla game, like badly, are just the ability to zone multi-Z levels at once, and then also the ability to search the dwarves in that screen.
Yeah, well, at least I added. At least that's in now.
One more thing I'd like to nitpick about UI things, since I have you captive, is back playing in version 47, because I've been recording version 47 and also playing a lot of version 47 adventure mode, but going back to Fortress mode for version 47, I'm reminded that when you select a dwarf, you can go to, I think it's the profile key, and then it's one of the keys within the dwarf's screen. You can tab over to the military tab, and it'll either say no squad assigned or the squad that they're assigned to, and then beneath that there was a list of squads, and you could just like select the squad to add them to. that's a button that I'm still missing, and even DFHack hasn't added that button. And I'm staring at that going like, why isn't this a priority? Because that was like the way I managed military in version
I
47.
think that's the problem with the older versions. There were too many ways to do the same thing, and sometimes I never used that, so I didn't think about it, and that's its own issue, right?
I think because everybody in version 47 just used like Dwarf Therapist and never used that UI at all.
Does Therapist have options for military? I've never used Therapist either. I use the M screen because I'm hardcore like that.
But yeah, no, you could absolutely add dwarves in and out of the military. And in fact, I think like Therapist had recommendations for military. Like it would just be like, these dwarves have the right thoughts for military. Bang, done. Kind of like what DFHack has right now in the current Steam version with their military suggestion stuff, which is kind of awesome. But I think from my perspective, I don't necessarily care about ease of use. I care about like the character building. And I think that it's a very fine line between ease of being able to make the game do the thing you want and also catching the story bits. So to me, I think like the button on the Dwarf UI is more important because then it forces you into that portion of UI instead of just filtered now, done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At the very least, filtering by name is in squad thing, so that's a bit more frictionless. But yeah, the old thing I do remember there was like a VS or VPS or whatever squads list.
At this point, because we're kind of still talking about Fortress mode things, aside from like various UI additions and moving around of buttons and changing that sort of thing, have you been working on anything else in Fortress mode wise?
No, actually. I think like a lot of the other stuff I've done is like backend stuff that's like really long term and can't really be like even continued on until adventure mode
right.
is done.
Gotcha.
That sort of thing. I have been thinking about doing stuff like making the labor system yet more like this might not end up in the actual update, but I've been updating the labor screen a bit. And like the first thing I did is you can edit the base work details as long as they're not miner, woodcutter, or hunter.
That's gonna make a lot of people happy.
That's like but that might not end up in the next update because it's like I'm still halfway through it and it's a whole ordeal process.
Speaking of upcoming patches, I guess, how's adventure mode coming along?
I know not much more than everyone else does, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of figured Tarn's just in his own little box, just kind of plucking away at things.
Yeah, one notable thing is that like if there's like obvious performance issues, there's plans to like send a save with the obvious issues to me, and I can like see what's done about that. But apparently it's like, I mean, this is what I expected. I think I've explained this before, but the optimizations I made to Fortress mode, the thing that it optimized is mostly areas with a lot of units that all see each other. Fortresses can never even like be close to the level of bad performance that Goblin Towers are in terms of that. And apparently those are running a lot better now just because of the optimizations I did. And I don't want to say they're running good. I haven't actually seen how good they run.
Just better.
But like, yeah, better is definitely an expected. Like, I would have legitimately guessed, like some people were saying that they saw like ridiculous improvements, like 80 to 100% in certain fortresses.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's me.
Yeah, which suggests to me that it's like the performance gain from like the packing all the units together was like better than linear with the amount of units there are, which is entirely unsurprising because it's like a quadratic time algorithm in the first place. So I would in fact guess that, like if I were to guess, I would say that if you're seeing 100% performance improvement in like 250 to 300 dwarf like fortresses, then in a goblin tower you'd see like better than that, run like 1.5 times as fast or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
this wouldn't surprise me.
it's also like a single player turn-based game too, so as long as the buttons feel good to push, you're pretty much okay at that point.
Yeah, we could always do like we could always fake it. Like do the old like when you push the button, it moves your tile, and then it does all the calculation to actually get you moving.
And just flip it around.
Like that sort of thing.
Makes sense.
Like, come to think, that might be a better idea than I initially thought. It would make it feel a bit better, though it would give like a lag after you hit the button because it's still catching up when the performance is bad. So,
yeah, a lot of the things that I'm really seeing about adventure mode is two kind of interesting pieces of feedback, at least from my comments sections and chats in general. The people who've been watching me play adventure mode are suddenly extremely excited. They went from kind of neutral to like, okay, I'm in. The people who are a little bit more passive are like, why do people care about adventure mode still? And there's kind of a lot of those people, and that's a little bit odd to me, which I think kind of ties back to like you saying like it's not feature complete until adventure mode is in. And then there's like people that are just like played adventure mode before, looking forward to it returning, but also still annoyed with the issues that were in older versions, like, you were just talking about performance and stuff. And then there's also things like, one of the neat ideas of adventure mode would be like, you retire a fortress, you grab an adventurer, you go from A to B, you go do a thing, you come back, and then you reclaim the fortress, right? But the way I build fortresses, at the very least, that's like a non-starter, because I know that the lava from my moat's going to be in my basement, right? And like the water is going to be God knows where, and everything is going to be everywhere, and all my barrels are rotten. So like, is there any chance that we're going to see a situation where that is less of an issue, or are we just kind of going to be in the same space for a while?
I don't know, and at this point it's kind of beyond me. I would have to spend like a few months just like really digging into reclamation to figure out why it's the case. I mean, it's like 80% chance of that, or 90. That's most likely. Small chance it's actually just some like one line thing that everyone missed that would fix it completely, but I doubt it. I really doubt it would be that. But I really don't know what the deal with... Like, there's a lot that seems to go wrong with reclaiming. And it's really weird. It seems complex.
It's certainly a thing that's like a sore spot for a lot of people, because it's like one of the big kind of touted features of the game, I think, to a degree. And I think it's a bit of a shame that one of the bigger features of the game is almost inaccessible from a player perspective. So...
Fortress retiring is new in the grand scheme of things. When was it? It was one of the 40s, I think, wasn't it? Okay, it was 40.01, which that makes sense. Only 9.5 years.
It's pretty kind of a while, but yeah, pretty new in the grand scheme of things, I suppose. Yeah, I really hope that there's some improvements to reclaiming, because like while it is possible to reclaim forts, basically nobody does it. So. Purely because of that issue, right? Like, I think adventure mode would be way cooler if you could, play a fort for a couple of years, then go on adventures, and then come back without the fort being in shambles.
Yeah, if you look back at the patch history, there's all sorts of interesting stuff. 40.03 had fixed adventurer retirement cloning. I think that's the adventurers being retired, actually. Fixed problem with retired fort uniform settings, crashing later visits.
I think that this is just like the genesis of that Twitter account that just reposts Dwarf Fortress bugs.
Fix some reclaim / unretire bugs involving unavailable seeds. Oh god. Sorry, that reminds you of we still haven't found the source of the general strike you were having.
The original one, or the one that I found recently?
The original one. The one that you found recently. That one's a bit easier to...
The frozen buckets thing?
Yeah, it's probably my fault even with the bucket change I did.
Yeah, I don't think you can fix frozen buckets. I think they just stay frozen forever. And I'm also pretty sure you can't fix them with DFHack, because I even tried dumping lava on them and it didn't thaw them.
Even in like even in adventure mode, you can just like, make a fire and then put the bucket near the fire and it melts all the ice in it.
Yeah, or your water skin or whatever, or your backpack. So I have a feeling the answer to this next question is going to be relatively similar to last answer that you had, but any idea if modded worlds are going to get damaged by the adventure mode patch, or if they will still be playable?
I mean, vanilla worlds are modded worlds. I don't see why. It'll probably be fine. I can't see what would go wrong with this.
That was generally my assumption, but I think people just like to hear that it's likely that their worlds will be fine or still playable. I always just tell people the game doesn't have DRM, so if you're actually worried, like if you've done some gnarly shit to your save, like maybe just copy your install and then patch a different install and see if it works.
Copy the install, copy the save. It's all you can do all that.
And then I guess my last kind of question that I see a lot of people asking, which I'll eventually probably forward to Tarn if you don't know anything about this, is just any tell of custom tile sets for Classic, or is that still just a non-starter?
It's not. There's nothing stopping it that I know of, except for the insane mountain of effort it requires, which is a problem. It's actually a problem. If you're okay with not having layered dwarves or whatever, you can go pretty simple with it. The problem is that the old tile sets just don't. The entire graphic system was completely overhauled, so you'd have to make a new one. They have to be square, which is a bit of a problem. Like, basically, old tile sets just will not work, but you can convert old tile sets, sort of. Like, creature graphics are still there. Replacing the actual letters is no longer something you want to be doing. You want to just have item graphics now, that sort of thing. But it's a whole process, but it is a process that's doable. And I'm not saying this as an insider, I'm saying this just what I know from, as a modder.
Fair enough.
The problem is that it's just a lot of effort, and they did kind of throw out the old system, but couldn't not. The old system just wouldn't allow for item graphic. I mean, you can still technically replace the original characters and such, but the game was never going to have TWBT as it is, text will be text as it was, and that's the thing that people are comparing to. And it's more well integrated and isn't the cause of approximately 50% of the game's crashy reputation.
Totally. Yeah. No. I mean, it's kind of funny, going back to older adventure mode and just running into crashes constantly. And people are just like, so why is this crashing so much? And it's like, well, it's because I'm using this tile set so that you guys actually watch the thing that I'm streaming. But if I was just an ASCII, this probably wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, you find that that's a big thing. And text will be text was, I mean, it's amazing.
It's a really
it was
cool
great
plugin, but yeah, it breaks the game constantly.
But it is a hack. The integration wasn't going to look the same, and it doesn't look the same, and everything has to be thrown upside down for that. And I'm a bit surprised nobody's made a really simple graphical tile set for something I don't know, taking all the creature graphics for Space Fox. You could just use those straight up. I don't think you actually have to modify any of the raws regarding that.
I think the reason that it hasn't happened is I'm just speculating here, right? But I think the reason it hasn't happened is because the people who would do it are still playing version 47 and are still upset that keyboard support isn't in version 50 and that the UI changed. Every now and again, I'll just get somebody yelling in my comments section, and it's usually a username I recognize from the forums or other places where it's just this game's basically dead to me because keyboard support and then the UI changing. But yeah, also you've been working on keyboard support, haven't you?
I added it to the. I've been just sort of adding it to the unit list. I rewrote a lot of the widget stuff I had already written to allow for activation function to instead of manually writing in the when this is clicked, do this. I made every widget able to do things on click, but also it doesn't just do things on click. It also does it if you hit one of the activation hotkeys. It has a list for. So keyboard support is at least being added to UIs.
Cool.
As I get to them, basically, where I can. There's no on-screen thing, but that's because I'm kind of playing fast and loose with it for now.
Yeah, and the people who want that functionality, I don't think need an on-screen thing.
Probably not. I think Shift Z zooms to the current highlighted, and you can control the unit lists with the keyboard. Sorry, dog barked.
Okay.
You can control the unit list with the keyboard fully now. Like page up, page down, 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 up, up, all those work.
Cool. When you say you're like getting keyboard support back in, would it be possible to have the original keybinds back, or is it like keyboard support but with new keybinds kind of deal?
I mean, you can adjust the keybinds, but the organization of the UI is different enough that I don't think you can, like, I don't think you'll ever be able, maybe you'll be able to get, like, BWW for Farmer's Workshop back or something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of all I really want is just, like, the workshop UIs and stuff. As far as, like, navigating goes, it wouldn't matter so much to me personally, but, like, I don't need UMKH back necessarily, but the ability to play the game entirely keyboard again is very enticing.
Okay, so like you can adjust the hotkeys for each individual like piece of furniture and building in the usual key binding screen, but it's and for all the like different levels, but I don't think the same like hierarchy is going to be recreatable.
Okay, that's good to know. Just so that people can get expectations, sound. Because, like, we hear mumblings about things, and then what happens is people start to speculate, and because there's never, like, a clear statement on this is what's going to happen, it gets people either expecting or expecting nothing.
I'm reasonably confident that, like, bringing the old UI back can't really happen. It's that's two UIs being maintained at once. That's a lot. Like, it's been a bit of a it's a bit of an ordeal to maintain just the one.
Yeah, I mean, Tarn was saying he's not going to, he didn't want to maintain two UIs. I think he said that back in like 2021 or something when I was talking to him. So yeah, I don't expect.
But like adding more keyboard support to the base, that's always good, and I'm trying to do that as I get to it. Think about it.
Before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you want to mention or bring up or talk about?
No, I saw the Angry Hippo Man thing going on live. That was fun. Well, not live, but like, it was a result of some of the like optimization of some of the optimizations I did. The optimizations that I did, last year, part of the thing they did was like move around the list that has every unit that's actually like actively in the world. And if you look in DFHack, you'll find that a lot of the scripts and plugins and such will like get the current adventurer by just taking the first unit in that list. And it turns out that's how that was defined before. But like I was sorting it by sorting the in-play list by like memory locations so that iterating would be faster. It turns out it iterates backwards quite often, so it's not actually faster, it's about the same. But the whole and the autonomous arguments there were because the adventurer wasn't wasn't the zero thing anymore. So it was just like deciding there were just bits of the code deciding some random guy was the adventurer, and so the adventurer was just autonomously saying very argumentative things at that hippo.
Yeah, no, I'm always amused by little bugs like that, but it's also kind of hard to parse exactly what they're like to have to deal with at the time. But I kind of like the idea of adventurers just kind of babbling up to themselves the entire time, but also probably pretty annoying for actual gameplay.
It's a thought. Just press the press Alt Shift not 7 on the numpad or something, and your adventurer starts acting autonomously.
Yeah, just watch them exist. That would be pretty fun for being in a tavern for a bit, and also probably a pretty good way to get rumors without having to go through a lot of dialogue options or anything.
Yeah, assuming your adventurer isn't the type who just immediately starts talking about the worthlessness of craftsmanship to all the local dwarves or whatever.
Or like hitting somebody in the head with a hammer.
Getting mad enough to do that at least. Like, they won't do it autonomously, but they will do it if they get mad enough during an argument.
That's funny. I mean, I might be that sort of person too. Or just like accusing people of things, as you do.
This is what causes accusing people, they're a lot more level-headed about that, at least.
That's good. Although, maybe that's not good. I don't know. I like just walking into a tavern and being like, you are a night creature. They're like, what? And then somebody attacks them for no reason. It's a good time.
Yeah, tavern brawls in even in dwarf mode, are usually just caused by people arguing at each other. Although I think erratic behavior, drunkenness might cause it too. There's all sorts of wonderful details.
I'm just very much looking forward to the game being feature complete because there's a very large number of people playing the game right now that have never touched adventure mode, and I think that playing adventure mode gives you a much clearer picture of what the game is doing under the hood, because it lets you be that. And I think that that's going to be a really interesting kind of period of time. I think it's just going to be a matter of keeping people's expectations leveled.
Yeah, so am I. I don't know much more than, like, there was mention of, like, I think in the roadmap there was mention of wrestling being changed somehow. I don't know what that's going to entail. I'd guess that the, just massive list of all the body parts you can do a joint lock with isn't there anymore.
I'm really curious to know what that UI is going to look like, because purely for the fact, like, it does have to work in ASCII as well as in Classic. And as my chat has pointed out recently, the wrestling and the melee, like, detailed attack screen is quite literally just VATS from Fallout.
Yeah,
but
but
generally with an axe.
The thing is, paper dolls are hard with procedurally generated creatures, which we have.
So I don't know. I kind of hope it's literally just a list of limbs, because it's admittedly a little bit archaic, but it's very simple and easy to understand.
I mean, the list of limbs has a long pedigree. It goes back before Dwarf Fortress even. Armok 1 was largely lists of limbs.
Yeah, lists of limbs, break thing.
That was like the main feature of Armok 1 even.
As long as I can still gouge somebody's eyes out, tell them to yield, and then throw them by the tongue, I'm good.
Yeah, well, here's hoping you can still throw them by the tongue. I don't know, and I don't see why it would be removed. Should bring back stances. That's my Armok 1 opinion.
I hope it all stays in there intact, and hopefully you can get your wishes of Armok 1 features returned to the game that people don't realize is a sequel anymore. So thank you very much for joining me once again and having a chat with me about things you've been working on, and I think we're going to wrap this up here now. So until next time.
All right.